Hey guys, James here from TCGU University, coming back at you with another deck profile. Today, I'm going to be showing you my Eugenia deck that I played during the Campus Championship. Make sure to check out all of the other videos from the Campus Championship and tell us what you guys want to see in the future and whatnot. And let's get into it. Okay guys, I played Eugenia during the Campus Championship. I feel like this is a very good deck. There's a couple of changes and more that you can make, and it's very geared towards what I wanted for both the Campus Championship and what I would play for the meta currently. She has two abilities. One says she could check a forward or remove the top card of our opponent's deck discard pile, and then we can play one enhance ability off of that card without paying its cost, which is really nice for things that like have a destroy cost, a pay life cost, and stuff like that. The only thing it doesn't really work with is EX are powerful. You have to still pay the momentum and whatnot for that. But other than that, you get to do all the cool abilities. You get to destroy. You don't have to destroy. You can just pop something in with like Scarlet. I did that during a couple times during the Campus Championship. And you just get to do a bunch of. It's basically play all the cool abilities that you would normally have to pay for, but play them for free. And then another ability is if you have removed a Eugenia 1 or 2 dot during the enhanced step, you can give your next check +2. Meaning you can just pass all your bigger attacks that you'll play later just more easily. To combo off of that bottom ability, we are playing 4 Eugenia 2 dots. Eugenia 2 dot has two abilities. The first one is enhance your attack. You remove one character from your staging area. Usually it's this 2 dots, so you don't have to worry about it, because then you go remove. I'll get +2 to my check, do the cool thing. And the ability is after you remove a character from a staging area, you can play one enhance ability printed on an attack in either player's card pool, whether it be your opponent's card pool or your card pool. Most of the time, you'll probably pick your own card pool just because we're playing things like Downward Spiral and Queen of Hearts, but there are options if your opponent blocks with really good cards like Nutcracker and stuff like that to be able to use their abilities as well. And then the bottom enhance is you can respond before the block step of the attack. You can change its zone and return its stats all back to printed, which just means your opponent's not allowed to debuff you. They're not allowed to try and limit what you do, because you just put it all back to printed and they have to deal with that. You only have to worry about raw stats at the least. You don't have to worry about them negging you a bunch. So let's move these down here. And plus, it's a cool little kitty cat. Okay. The first card we'll talk about is the actions. The actions. We're playing 3 Revoke. Revoke is just a very strong card to build a lot more on turn 1, because we play a 7 diff most likely on our second turn, and having more foundations ready to do that makes it a lot easier for us. And having a negate later game when we are a 7-hander, we can draw more pieces, is also very good. We are playing 1 Spell Circle. Spell Circle has the Void Enhance of discarding a card, and a lot of our engine depends on discarding cards from our opponent's hand to try and ditch them with our Eugenia by flipping the 4 and whatnot. And then the other part of it just adds itself to the momentum, which just gives us more possibilities to work with. Next, we'll talk about getting characters into our staging area. In my opinion, one of the problems Eugenia has had in the past is getting characters into our staging area is not easy. And it was never very good for these 3 symbols to be able to build characters. Joffrey got away with it because he can freeze and stun things, and it's really hard to get through that. But she really didn't have the options unless she discarded her opponent's entire hand. And I feel that there weren't just pieces to be able to do it. And then since the original time I was working with it, she has gotten Downward Spiral. She has gotten the new foundation from Worlds. I have it right here. I'm about to talk about it. A Moment of Rest, which just says if you block with one of the cats, you can add it to your staging area, or you can give another attack gauge. She's also gotten better gauge support from Amy. So like she just has a bunch she can actually work with now. So onto the character stuff. We have 2 Here We Go. Here We Go is a good solid 0 low block breaker 2 that also allows us to either add a character to our hand if we need a mid block, or just put it into our staging area so we can just start comboing how we want. Usually you just have to play 4 of this to try and make her viable. I feel like 2 is okay because it's good just regularly, and then if you need to put the character on board, it still has the availability to do that as well. Like I said, we're trying to get characters in our staging area, and one of the ways we do that is Amy's Reversal. Graceful Rouge. It's a 4/3, 3 low for 5 that can gain stun 2. And then as a reversal, has gauge 3. So if they have to full block it, or you're going to get your character, or they have to at least deal with it. So this just puts a lot of pressure on our opponent and doesn't force us to try and go in to try and earn our characters, which was another problem Eugenia had, where she had to try and press her opponent just to try and build 1 or 2 characters, and it'd leave her really defenseless. And then the foundation I was talking about earlier, a moment of rest. A moment of rest says you can give an attack gauge X equal to their printed damage, or you can flip it after blocking with a character card, and if it matches your character, you can stack it into your staging area. The stack's very good. It is a 1/5 with a no block, but for being able to exchange it with a character, it's plenty good for us. Now we'll get into the meat of our deck, which is the attacks we play on our turn most of the time. We are playing 4 Queen of Hearts. Queen of Hearts is her ultra rare, her big attack, her really cool card. It's a 7/3, so it's a really high difficulty, and we do play 2 checks, so you have to kind of counterbalance that, which is why her +2 to the check and all the other stuff we do is very good for this. It is only a 2 mid for 7, but we're mainly playing it to try and limit our opponent's options, because as a Void Enhance that says we can look at our opponent's hand and get rid of 1 card we don't want to deal with. If it's an attack, we get all the enhances printed on it, and if it's an attack, we don't have to worry about it for later. And then if it's an attack, it probably has better abilities, but we can also use. And just being able to use their abilities really kind of pisses people off. Then, like I said, we're playing Downward Spiral. Downward Spiral does a big chunk of our offense just because Downward Spiral is broken. It's a 4/2, 5 low for 5 that gets +X damage equal to the difference between both players' hands and their printed hand size. So a lot of times this is getting like anywhere between like 6 to 9 damage. And then with Eugenia 2-dot, we can just copy it again and then double that once more. So like we can, if we discard our opponent's entire hand and they're just a normal 6-hander, and there's like the 3rd card we've played during our turn, so that we get +3, that's 9 damage. We can make this a 14, and then just use Eugenia to make it 23 damage. And then if we discard their entire hand, they just have to face tank that 23. And then it also has a Void Enhance of making our opponent discard. So if we need to discard more cards with Eugenia, we can just double down on the discard as well. Next, we're going to talk about color spray or spray paint. I like calling it spray paint. It's cooler. It's a 5/3, 3 mid for 5 with a 1 mid block. It has gauge 5, so it's another gauge attack. But we're not as worried about this one hitting them because we have more options to set up during the other points of the game as well as during our offensive turn. Has stun 1, which just slows our opponent down a little bit more on defense. It gives +2 to the check for for the next card we play. Is it next? Yeah, for the next card we play, and then we can remove 1 card from our discard pile to stack a card on top of our opponent's discard pile, which just enables Eugenia's check of 4 to do something, which just gives us more options to do things. And take note, you can play this on defense. So like if they mill a cool card, you can just get rid of it and then do something cool with it. Hitting good defensive pieces on defense on your defensive turn is very, very funny with Eugenia. And then the last attack in our deck that leads into the style of the play of the deck, which is we're trying to put as many cards that we want to see on top of our opponent's discard pile as possible. One of the ways we do that is Segaki Offering. Segaki Offering is a 5/3, 3 high for 6 that says we can discard 1 card from our opponent's card pool to get +X speed and damage equal to their block modifier. What this says is if we force our opponent to try and block with attacks, we can discard those attacks from the card pool to put them in the discard pile to then check the 4th Eugenia and get rid of them, and then use their cool abilities. And then if we need to lead off with this, it does check a 4 to try and draw a card, which just means we extend our hand size. Playing off of the getting cards in our opponent's discard pile, we have 1 Soul in Purgatory. We mainly play this for the discard 2 cards. Your opponent discards 1. So we get rid of 2 cards we don't want to limit our opponent's hand size as well as get things on the top of their discard pile. We are playing 1 We Are Many, You Are But One. We mainly play this for the check a 6. Your opponent discards momentum, which means that all the momentum that people usually get are from their attacks and their opponent. This just says, that's a cool attack, you put in momentum. I'm going to use its ability now. 1 Esoteric Yoga. As you saw, we are playing a lot of discard cards, and so one of the outs to that is drawing more cards. And Esoteric Yoga just says no to that. If our opponent draws a card, we force them to discard 1 card, which also puts things on the top of their discard pile as well. Then her best foundation. which is Cat's Cradle. Cat's Cradle is a 2/5, 2 low block, so it covers our zones. We can flip this and remove one card from our discard pile to stack a card in our opponent's discard pile. So it's kind of like spray paint or color spray. And then so we just get to use Eugenia after doing that, which is super strong for us. Most of the time, you do this when your opponent can't do anything about it, or you do it to force your opponent to try and ruin their routes or ruin their plays. Then we're playing 3 Voice of Reason. It's more discard, but also it funnels our deck. It's just once per turn, each player discards 1 and draws 1. This just says we can get rid of bad cards and force our opponent to get rid of cards from their hand, giving us more options for our Eugenia, as well as getting us more options from our deck. 3 Profane Sanctuary. Not only does this cover our high blocks, because I noticed when I was building we were low on high blocks. Not only does it protect us with the tie block, cancel a breaker. It also says we force our opponent to mill 2, which sometimes just puts cool cards on the discard pile for us to use. And then we have 2 Quest for Vengeance. This card is very good, in my opinion, with the reversal. It's a 0/4 with a 3 low block. We normally never really want to try and play it unless it's like turn 1. We're trying to super build as much as we can. The only ability it has is after you block with it, your opponent discards 1 card. This is really good with the reversal because we can block, force them to discard, play the reversal, and then use the ability off the card they were forced to discard with Quest. I didn't really get to see that play as much, but this card did put in a lot of work, both as a build and during blocks. So that's really good. Then one of my favorite cards that I think gets underused but puts in some work with Eugenia is Power Made Flesh. It's from the original Street Fighter set. It's a Kuma's card. It's a 0/4 with a no block, which is why we only play 2 of it. But it is destroy your opponent discards 1 momentum. So it's the same thing as why we play Power Made. We are many, but you are but 1. Giving them the attacks and our opponent's momentum just allows us to go in harder and use their cool abilities for ourselves. And then the last card that leads into the pace, the defense, the pace of the deck, the not going in through our combo stuff is Face a Monster. It's a 50/50. You can neg speed, you can change zones, and then at deadlock, you can also force your opponent to discard, which works really well with our cards. We can force them to discard, play Eugenia's ability on our next attack, and do cool things, or we can just use it to play defense. Again, it's also one of our cool high blocks because the deck needed them. Then we have 2 Loyal Friend. Loyal Friend is a 2/5 with a no block that just says Seal a Foundation. One of the ways people have outs is they draw cards. One of the best draw cards in the game is passing the torch. Just seal passing the torch. You don't have to worry about them drawing cards. Seal their draw outs. Seal any of the outs that would cause you a lot of problems and just not have to deal with it. We have Hacker Extraordinaire. Hacker Extraordinaire gets rid of problem assets, draws us extra cards, builds us momentum if we need to face tank. Just all around does a little bit of everything we want it to do. And then my least favorite card in the game is Toguro Brothers. So I'm playing 1 Water Freezes. Water Freezes is a 2/5, 3 low block from the Mishka support. It says form commit. Cards cannot leave your discard pile or your staging area due to your opponent's effects for the rest of the turn. And then your next flash gets whatever. You don't have to worry about that. We don't play flash. But it just means that our opponent's not allowed to Toguro our staging area or just do anything with that in general. It stops fatality, stuff like that. So you don't have to worry about any of that. But it only works during your turn, so you have to know. So most of the time you just use it just to make sure you just aren't going to get messed with. We're playing 1 Damnation to spite Tam. It's a 2/5 with a no block. It cancels things like passing the torch. It cancels things that they're going to draw to out us. They're going to do all this to stop our cool combo, and we just don't want to mess with that. We play a bunch of characters, so we are playing Radical Edward. If we check this, we can add a character to our hand from our discard pile, or we can commit this to commit 1 asset or foundation with a keyword. So we just get rid of problem unique cards. We get rid of, we get to add characters and blocks. It just does a little bit of everything and has that neat high block we needed. 1 Venomous. We talked about this on the podcast recently. You guys should check that out. But I think this is one of the most underrated cards currently in the game. It's a 2/5 with a no block that says you negate a draw. You negate a non-character draw ability, which is crazy. It negates everything from passing the torch, let's cut loose, shadow slicer. It just does so much, and no one plays it. I wanted some. We're about to get to Fei Fei, but I wanted a little bit more speed 8, a couple more options to kind of put myself in and out of deadlock if I need to. So we're playing one Haunted by Loss. It's just destroy, commit foundation for a -2 speed. Has a cool low block. It's a spam. Works out. We're playing the 4 Fei Fei. Just flip from -3 speed. And then the last card we're playing is Fusion of Souls. Fusion of Souls is one of my favorite cards from from Ermac support. It's a 1/5 with a 3 high block, so like I said, we need the high block, but it also functions really well with our cards. First form, we can check a 6, and we can add a character card from our discard pile to our hand. And then at Deadlock, it has my favorite ability, which is just commit your opponent's character. Just shut off. If you ever get to Deadlock, it's just a one-time just turn my opponent off, which is really nice. Thanks for checking out the profile, guys. If you want to support us, go to patreon.com/TCGU University. Make sure to check out the other deck profiles as well as the Campus Championship matches as well. Make sure to come hang out on Tuesdays when we record these if you guys want to check that out. Make sure to join, if you do join the Patreon, make sure to check out in Discord and talk to us. As always, guys, stay alert.